thank you guys for coming out to AREAA Greater Milwaukee. I think some of you guys attended our gala last night. Thank you for that support. And so today, follow-up day, just a quick lunch and learn by our special guest, Daniel Leung, former 2016 DFW.
Has been.
DFW AREAA president here. He's CCIM certified, which is equivalent to the PhD world of commercial real estate here. So phenomenally smart guy, been in business for a long time. Here to share some knowledge with us, those of us who want to learn about the commercial real estate space. I know a lot of us in the room, us agents, us professionals, we've only done residential. And the commercial world, as we'll find out, is a completely different animal. So, Daniel, appreciate you flying down from Dallas.
Flying up.
And flying out later today or after this. So,
yep.
I'll let you take the...
All right. Thank you, Laura.
Take the floor here.
Well, I appreciate I'm not just the photographer, right? A lot of people thought I was just the photographer, but I am actually a commercial real estate practitioner for past 22 years. Actually, a little longer if you count when I started my real estate classes right after high school. I have my banking and finance degree in Switzerland. I went to college in Franklin College in Switzerland, and I studied 3 years, and I finished early, came back to get into the real estate family business. My parents were in the commercial real estate industry already. So kind of grew up in it, understood bits and pieces of it. So in 2001, I came back. Of course, in 2001, September 11th, we had a big incident in the U.S., and that also changed a lot of dynamics in the market as well. So coming in, learning the business, continue to do maintenance, leasing, everything, because you own the property, so you got to continue to manage those. My father had a major stroke in 2006, so really good 5 years with Dad trying to understand the market. And then from there, 2006, 2007, and then we had our financial crisis, 2009. But Dad got sick, my first divorce in 2007. It was just market. It's just not a good time. However, I wanted to kind of share why I share my personal story is because you need to surround yourself with the right people, whether you're on the residential side, investment side, lending side, title, whatever you're doing, insurance, you got to surround yourself with a network. So in 2008, I decided to get my CCIM courses done. I didn't know about this. Actually, a good commercial friend of mine said, "Hey, Daniel, market's just bad in 2008. Let's just knock some classes out." And I said, "What is this?" And I started researching and not knowing there was a diversity scholarship. So I paid full price. So if you are thinking about CCIM, there is a diversity scholarship. As long as you're already a member, you get almost like a 40% discount. So those classes cost around $1,100 to $1,300. So there's about 5 classes you have to take, and you have to have a portfolio in order to get your designation. So going over that, 2008, 2009, I met my business partner, Calvin, through CCIM. Later on, I found AREAA back in 2010, around that time. And then Calvin and I became business partners on the commercial brokerage side in 2012. So before that, I was just running my own family operation, but then started going to the brokerage business. I also was a KW commercial director when KW started their commercial platform at that time. So I was running that, and then I found a couple AREAA volunteers that were at KW in different market centers. We decided to form a mini team that way, and I was just kind of helping them get that operations. Later on, we all basically left KW and then formed our own group. I was a broker at that time. I had an office building, so we just set up our mini shop on the residential. My other partners were running that. And later on, we franchised our commercial brokerage under the Sperry umbrella. So it's another national franchise. And then I also franchised my residential company. So going after that, 3 years ago, the EXP platform came about because James Wang, our past AREAA national president, which he was the president for Sperry Commercial, moved over to this platform, and that's why we're there. And that's how I met Laura and Andy and everyone else. But going back to commercial, because my background, I had a residential company and a commercial company, I understand there was a strong need for resi-commercial, meaning that there's a lot of residential agents don't have the opportunity to learn commercial. And that's why we came up with this kind of commercial 101. I want it to be more interactive today, so because everyone has different backgrounds. Some people are doing investments. Some people want to learn more how to get into this field. You have to take the courses. So maybe you don't qualify for CCIM yet, but I insist that you at least start your courses and get some training, because that network of CCIM, which is like a network of AREAA, is important for your business. I believe in Minnesota, in Wisconsin, you probably have a commercial association within your residential association. There's probably some classes you can continue to take. Get those fundamental classes in, because terminology, what is a triple net? So I focus on retail. We own about 50 shopping centers, about 1 million square feet of retail in Dallas. That's what I focus on. I have other groups that are doing multifamily, RV parks, land, industrial, office. So there's different sectors in commercial real estate as well. And typically on the commercial brokerage side, you kind of specialize on one thing, right? A lot of the resi-commercial, you're trying to learn things, which gives you an advantage because you can kind of dabble in things and figure out what you like best, So you really need to figure out what do you want to do with this commercial information, this knowledge that you're building up. One is either you find a good commercial partner just to refer out or work a deal together, right? And don't say, hey, I'm going to give you this client, I want a 50-50 and learn. A lot of residential agents go to a commercial practitioner and says, hey, I want 50-50 and I want to learn. That commercial broker, you have to understand, they started with a 50-50 or even a 75-25, meaning they only took home 25, not took 75. So the house gets 50%, and if they're part of a team, they got to split to the team leader 50-50 also. So they only took home 25%. So when you go straight to this, commercial practitioner, don't ask for a 50-50. Just say, hey, I want to learn. I'm just going to get a referral. Commercial referrals aren't the typical residential 20 to 30%. Usually it's 10 to 15%. So when you go to a commercial practitioner, it's like, hey, I want to learn, but I'll take a referral for 10, 15%. Can I be on the emails to understand what you're doing? The goal is for that practitioner is to get the deal done and close, right? If they have to babysit you and all that, and you're trying to learn, but you can try to shadow them. So just find the right person to shadow. But a lot of them, I tell you, they don't have the time to train. Just refer it out. So you need to find the right person that's willing to do that. So when we created this resi-commercial idea, when I was running 2 companies, that was the thing. We were training residential agents so they understood the terminology, so they could, one is screen the clients. Because when I was at KW Commercial, I would get all these residential leads, commercial leads from these residential agents, never screen the client, and I was just dealing with are they qualified? Right? Just like with residential, you got to qualify your client. Same thing commercial. Do they have a business plan? Do they have a lender in place? They say they have the cash. Is the cash in this country? We have to deal with that all the time. I was like, I understand you got millions over there, but is it in the U.S. in the U.S. bank? Right? Not in the house or the suitcase and all that. So, going back to commercial, I mentioned triple net. People that are on the retail side or have been in a retail business, do you understand what triple net is? Yes, no? Okay. So triple net is, so in a retail setting, you have your base rent, and then you have your triple net rent. So triple net rent includes the property tax, the common area maintenance, which we call CAM, and then the property insurance. So those 3 things combined is what we call triple net. So a tenant like this restaurant is probably paying a base rent plus a triple net rent. What that triple net rent is if the property taxes on this property go up, then the tenant, after reconciliation, they would have to pay the difference and pay that extra amount. So for me as an investor, I like triple net because I know if my expenses go up, I can pass through these expenses to the tenants, right? If it was 100% full. So that's why with commercial it's very different from residential, where if something happens to the plumbing today here, does the landlord have to fix it? Probably not, because in our commercial lease, the tenant, anything inside this property is the tenant's responsibility. Even if the roof leaks, the landlord might be responsible to repair it, but that is also a repair on the common area maintenance where they're going to pass through that expense through the tenants as well. So as an investment, we like that because it's a little bit more hands-off than the residential. However, you still have risk. Any investment, there's risks. Okay, office. I don't know the Milwaukee market for office, but in Texas, it is hurting because of a lot of people are not um, needing that big office space anymore because a lot of people are working from home, right? But a lot of employers are also trying to bring people back to the office, but they may not meet that footprint anymore. So they're downsizing, they're subleasing. So there might be opportunities for you to actually find good sublease space for the office market. Industrial is hot in Texas. I don't know. I'm guessing probably the same because of e-commerce, right? How everything is going straight from once you click the button next day or the same day, it's at your house, right? That has changed the game on industrial versus retail. Retail's still strong because of we still need to eat out, right? We're humans. We still like to interact. But retail has changed. I look at Toys R Us, filed bankruptcy in the U.S. They still have Toys R Us in Hong Kong, so my kids go back for that. But I look at Toys R Us, a big company. They had a lot of real estate. Why did they fail? I felt like if Toys R Us changed their footprint, either make it entertainment or education with the toys, they could have survived. But they didn't pivot, and they had too much brick and mortar, right? And they didn't. So a lot of those things they failed. And there's going to be a lot of other companies that continue to fail because they don't adapt, right? Just like real estate agents, if we don't adapt, gain more knowledge, right? I'm not saying that you're going to be day one, you're going to be a commercial practitioner, but the more knowledge you gain, the better you can service your client or refer them to the right people to close the deal, right? So, what else? Multifamily. For me, multifamily, yes, is classified as commercial. For me, I still think that's residential because you're still dealing with residential tenant, even though it's multiple residential tenants. Multifamily, a lot of people get into that from single family investing into multifamily. That's kind of usually the trend is to get into that because they're familiar with that. Multifamily is a good sector to invest in as well, depending on the market as because who's a lender here? Yeah, so lending on multifamily, right? Because sometimes you can do FHA, so you have a longer term, shorter depreciation because it is a dwelling, right? You can depreciate it faster than a retail property. So things like that. So there are benefits in doing multifamily as well. Then we go into syndication, right? What is syndicating a deal? Crowdfunding, REITs, right? And then a lot of pension funds, insurance companies, they all invest in real estate, right? Because that's where the money is being made. That's where the growth, right? Steady growth is commercial real estate as well. So we got office, industrial, retail, and of course special use. What are special use buildings? Could be RV parks, could be churches, things like that. So there's a group in our company that just specializes in churches around the country. So they get listings around and they help each other out because some churches downsize, some people or need a bigger place. So you got to find a specialty. What you're gonna do. Like I said, I want to make it interactive. Is there any questions, or if you're in commercial already, or you're dabbled, we'd love to kind of hear where you're coming from as well. So, Andy, everyone enjoying their food? So, what else in commercial I wanted to share?
So Daniel,
Yes.
How is the offer process different?
Yeah, so we don't usually submit a contract right away. We go through the LOI process, letter of intent. So we submit kind of our terms that we want before we get into the contract. Because typically contracts are not promulgated from your state. I know that you probably do have like a commercial contract, but typical commercial deals are drafted by your attorneys. Usually the seller will have an attorney or the buyer might have an attorney, and then the attorneys have to get involved to look over the contract. So what we call the PSA, the purchase sales agreement. So a lot of these contracts, and that's what's good about commercial, we can kind of hands off and let the attorneys draft that. But the main terms, we need to negotiate those terms and then put it on in a contract form.
And what's like a normal time frame for a commercial closing obviously a little bit different than residential, right?
Yes. So there's a lot of factors, right? So there's a lot of factors is what is the use or why is your buyer buying this property? Is it for their owner occupied where they can get an SBA loan because they have a business and they want to buy it? So the SBA loan takes a little bit longer, right? And then if they're doing that as an investment, so they got to get qualified and the banks have to look at the not just the cap rate, but they have to look at the return and the LTV, loan to value ratio. So when you go, you have your feasibility, right? Maybe 30 to 45 days, and then closing maybe 30 days to 45 days after, right? So that's kind of the typical if everything is just kind of normal, but there's nothing normal in commercial. That's the thing. Depending on your seller, how hard they need to sell, and then when they do sell the property, what are they going to do? We have a tax code called a 1031, right? And that's why AREAA and your NAR, they're always fighting to make sure we have these 1031s. Why? Because 1031 is where they can defer their property gains tax. I mean the gains tax, capital gains, into another property without paying that capital gains right away. So that's why the 1031s are a very crucial part in our commercial business. And if you want to get into 1031, if anyone is familiar with that, that's probably be another class. The Milwaukee chapter can bring on a 1031 specialist to share what that entails. And so you have the knowledge to understand that. But going back your question, how long does it take? It also depends. If you're buying land, it's going to take a little longer because you got to probably get rezoning, right? Make sure the city is, if it's from farming into commercial or residential. So these are the things you have to kind of look into, right? If it's I don't know in Wisconsin, but we have the ETJ, right? Outside of your city, right? You can do a lot more stuff. But then do you have water? Do you have sewer? All these things, right? And if you don't have those things, you probably, even though it's very cheap, you probably can't develop on it. Right? So these are things you have to look into and make sure, because a lot of people just sell land and it just sits there, right? So land's another risk, but of course you have your ag. In Texas, we have our ag exempt. I don't know what you have in Wisconsin. Probably similar. If you buy a farm with you have agriculture, there's exemptions there. If you're developing, right, that's another thing because you got to think about. So if you're buying land just to develop a shopping center, right, that development might take a year and a half. But then there's probably 6 months before that just to make sure what you can develop, what you can zoning and things like that for just that retail property or industrial. So in Houston, in Texas, there's really no zoning. It's a deed restriction. So you can have a high rise next to a residential complex, and it's just very different. So I don't know how Milwaukee is as well. So these are things you need to learn, like because every state and every city is different. Yes.
When you sell like a commercial like strip mall,
Yeah.
what's the commission?
Also varies by state or city. So everything's negotiable. Typically, it can be 4 to 6% split in half, and that's also negotiable. So multifamily is a little bit different because when multifamily was very hot last year and the prior years, the buyer's commission was paid by the buyers. The sellers were not paying the commission, or the seller's agent was not giving that commission out. So depending on the market and the product. So I had a lot of agents like, hey, I have a buyer that wants to buy. So, well, just make sure that he understands that he needs to pay your commission. And I never heard anything back from that agent because that buyer went with someone else because buyers they need to understand, and you have to educate them, and you have to educate them the value. Why use you as an agent? Because of your connections. Because if you don't have the full knowledge, it's your network, right? The people that you're helping your client to get the deal or source the deal out as well. So Yes.
I don't know. I don't own anything commercial. I
Yet.
looked into it last year.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting. Laura helped me walk through it. It didn't happen, but I know a handful about residential lending. So I knew about like a 30-year conventional loan.
Yes.
And you can have like up to 10 of them or whatever.
Okay.
So I have a spouse, and we were like, great, we're both gonna get 10 traditional, financial loans.
Yeah.
It'll be great. But then we didn't learn about Instagram. What are the superstars? What do you call them? Influencers. They don't tell you about DTI. They just tell you just keep refinancing. But there's a point where you can't refinance after a certain point. So then I learned about like DSCR. I learned about hard money lending, and I just didn't know about that kind of stuff. So in the commercial world, are there different kinds of loan products too in that way, or not?
Yes, different loan products, but got a lender.
I'm just home loans.
Home loans? Anyone commercial loans? So
what I'm used to see in commercial lending is that it is still like a 30-year main rate.
no, so commercial is not a 30-year. So usually, typically, amortized. I've seen some. Multifamily, yes.
Yeah.
But like a retail center, usually 20 years. But you have a balloon at 5 or 7. So you have to refinance, forced to be refinanced around that time. So when we had the 08, 09 crisis, why did a lot of people, I even struggled on one property, not able to refinance because the bank went under. So when the bank went under, I had to find another bank that's willing to take on that. And, all the banks were holding off, and we almost lost that property. So and a lot of people lost property in 08, but it also created an opportunity because there were a lot of foreclosed properties, and where we picked up assets, after the 09 crash.
And on the commercial loans, be prepared that the fees are astronomical,
Yes.
right? Including title and as well. And so, like, if your lender has an attorney involved, most likely they're reviewing the title, and then they're also adding additional endorsements, surveys, things like that. So there is a lot that goes into that as well.
Yes.
Once you get to that closing portion.
Yep. Yeah, appraisal's a lot higher, the inspection and the environmental. So another thing about environmental, because you have your phase 1, which is kind of a preliminary environmental study. They don't really go into the property. They just kind of check the area. Was there any gas tank leaks? Was there any contamination from a dry cleaner? Things like that. And if say next door was a dry cleaner, it's gonna trigger like, hey, you need to do a phase 2. Just make sure that the ground was not contaminated that ran over to this property, even though it wasn't this owner's problem. But if the dry cleaner owner next door leaked, it is your problem, and we got to figure out what to do. And the lenders won't lend on it, right? So things like that, you have to be aware. I mean, there's a lot of that goes into it. Commercial inspection is very different from the residential. Because there's a lot more to it, what you're looking at.
So when you're saving for residential or commercial, is it it's the same thing, like 20% down?
Right now in our market, I'm looking at 30%. So 20% was, 2 years ago, a year ago. Now we're looking at close to 30, 35% down.
What about reserves?
Reserves, they're going to really look at the property because it's the pro forma, the leases. So commercial, like a retail, your leases typically are 3 to 5 or 10-year leases. So they're going to look at the tenant, look at the operations of that property. So it may not be looking at you as, which is great because sometimes the property, it's not non-recourse, right? You don't want to buy a commercial property that's a recourse that you're personally, you're guaranteed.
People understand that recourse, non-recourse.
Why don't you share, Andy?
I was making sure.
So non-recourse is they'll just take the property. It doesn't come back to you personally. Recourse is it comes back to you personally, right? So that's a major thing. So a lot of yes.
Just on a different subject, but there's a lot of private money that's out there that commercial individuals when they're buying properties are using. Do you have any suggestions for who some of those players are here in the Midwest that we're able to tap into in order to purchase that way?
So there's a lot of hard money nationwide, right? They're looking at so if they like this market, they're gonna lend in this market. So you got to find those hard money lenders that like this market. They see the future, they see the growth. That's why they're willing to, lend you the money in this market. I'm not from here, so I don't know who would that be, but you can probably. I guess that's why I build up a good network, so you can find those people that are doing it. I'm guessing in the Hmong community, you guys have like hard money lending all the time, right? Within each other. I don't know. I know that the Chinese, like some of the Chinese groups, they lend within the group, because at that time before AREAA, it was one of the reasons why AREAA was founded was to help push lending, not just by credit score, right? Actually look at their hard work, the savings, and everything. And a lot of people didn't put money in the banks in the first generation, right? So they couldn't qualify for loans, So I think that's one of the things AREAA has pushed for policy for that. But yeah, going back to your question on hard money lending, is there any hard money lenders here that or know anyone that does hard money lending?
That was our AREAA sponsor, the Hard Money Co. F Street.
Okay.
So they're just a local. They lend throughout the United States, but primarily in the Milwaukee market.
Yep.
And it's just been a long time investor.
Yeah, so they're there.
Right, but they're into more residential, smaller projects, multi-use. But I'm talking about $8 million, $10 million, $20 million projects.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.
Okay. Yeah, so for the commercial hard money, I mean, sometimes you have other groups or family money that they do that. Maybe they'll do debt for 2 years, and then you got to roll it into a permanent financing. So you just have to find that. I know in the East Coast in New York, there are groups that do that, and I know that they. No.
In the Chicago market,
probably, yeah. So whoever's in Chicago, they like, because it's not that far, hour and a half, 2 hours drive. So they have to understand this market, and they're willing. But then that's going to be on you also. What other assets you have, not just the property. So, okay, all right.
So Daniel, going back to your comment about what happened in 2008, 2009 with commercial loans, having that 5-year, 7-year balloon, we had rates really low 4 years ago.
Yep.
Do you see any opportunity coming soon?
Yes, we are seeing opportunity because people who bought properties 5 to 7 years ago. So we have other tools. So in the commercial side, we have Reonomy. CoStar sometimes has. CoStar is like our commercial MLS because so in the commercial side, another thing I want to tell you guys, we don't have a MLS system. CoStar is a data company. They try to get the data as much as they can. It's not fully accurate. Your MLS is pretty accurate, right? Because when you close, you have the information, you got the data. CoStar they're researching, right? And they're calling brokers all the time. Hey, what did you sell it for? Or they kind of guess because they see the deed closing and things like that. They'll look at the loan. They'll estimate how much it got sold for. But going back, then you can find the data. Who bought properties 5 years ago? Who bought properties 6 years or 7 years ago? Their loan is coming due. So if you want to target these investors or these owners, those are the ones you want to call now. Like, hey, what's your plan? Are you trying to sell? Maybe there's a partnership. Sometimes the partnership wants to get out, right? Is there an opportunity? So yes, you can. Some people are under, right? Because they over leveraged or the property's not performing and they got to figure out what to do. So yes, there should be some opportunities. This year is what we're looking at, and then also the following year, because if you look at the trend, and CoStar does a report. I think Marcus and Millichap, another large commercial firm, CBRE, they also do these reports, and they'll have some data like how much loans are coming due, and then economists look at that too, like how many commercial loans are coming due this year, and that's where they kind of like look at. There's going to be some change. So they'll be So those are opportunities that you can look at, trends and things like that. Residential too. You can look at some stuff. if they're investors, but not like commercial where they have to refi in 5 or 7 years, sometimes 10. So, anything else?
Are you seeing a lot of new construction for commercial in your area at all, or?
Yeah, so Texas, we're fortunate to be in a very business-friendly state. A lot of companies especially from California, have moved to Texas, East Coast as well. So there's a lot of growth there. So another thing is building up your network, right? I'm in Dallas. I can't do everything for everyone, but at least there's a resource. And if I can't help you, I know somebody, right? So continue to build up your network of people around the country. And AREAA is great. I mean, AREAA is the one that connected me with like we have 45 chapters now, right? Just imagine all the people I've connected throughout the years, the 15 years, and just made those connections. Sometimes I don't have to do business, but there's a resource, and I can call Hawaii right away. I can call San Francisco, Seattle, and I can find a resource and say, hey, I need this. Who do you know? And make those connections for your clients. So just continue. I mean, as this chapter continues to grow, just keep on building that up. So, yes.
For you and Andy.
Okay.
Knowing what you know, what do you have more preference for? Commercial or residential?
So, because I've been in both, but my focus has always been commercial. I'm not a residential transaction or a producer. But because I know both, I know there's a big need for more knowledge for the residential agents. I feel like there is a gap missing. Most commercial people don't want to touch residential at all, and I understand because they need to focus on the production, right? Because if they have to mentor and all that, they're not going to have time, right? Which I understand. But at the same time, I think my gift is sharing, right? I enjoy that. That's why I have a team of about 200 people in my organization, and we're all around the country. And from there, I just get to pour into people like Laura, Andy, and everyone, just to share resources and create this real estate club. That's what REAA is. REAA is a real estate club, but we took it a step further because we are actually together in a company, so that just helps, and then we just continue to build that network and resources. But going back to your question, commercial or residential, it really depends because it's two different animals, right? Commercial, because there's no education where you can just learn it in 6 months and be a rock star. Residential, you can. Residential, you have opportunity as long as you have to treat your sales business as your own boba tea shop or restaurant. You gotta look at it. This is your business. You got to be motivated to clean up afterwards or open the door, right? And it's not going to come to you. I mean, a lot of people who get in this business, what's the stat in NAR? 9 out of 10 fail in real estate because they're not trained to be in sales, right? This is a sales position. You have to have thick skin. You got to hear no's all the time, especially in commercial. You're cold calling owners all the time, right? You're cold calling owners, like see what they need, and then is the timing, right? You're building up your database. Like if you really want to know commercial, there's 4 corners, right? You need to know each owner, what they do, why they bought that property, what's their exit strategy. Do they have kids or not, right? Are the kids going to inherit? My dad used to look at the obituary every week. That true story. He used to look at the obituary every week to see which family, because there was, back then there was a few families that were dominating, and he would see which family passed away. He would call his broker friends, say, hey, I know that person owns it. I know you have a connection. Can I buy it? That was his way of doing it. I mean, that's the old school way.
Tone does it every day.
So he's a resource right there.
Yeah, right.
Who passed away? Who called our life insurance policy and things like that, right? So little things like that, right? But to get in it, I mean, I like the residential because you're helping families get into a home, and then the investment side is more money related. Commercial is also more money related. So depending on what you're wanting to do, if you feel like, hey, I just want to focus on money and investments, I'm a numbers guy. I don't like the emotions of what residential is, then go commercial. But it is hard work. You have to have savings at least a whole year not thinking that you're going to close a deal, because when you go back to the question, how long does it take? It could take 6 months to a year. It may not close. Can you survive, the whole year without income? So it's not an easy game to be in, and it's not really a game, but yes.
And I feel like if the buyer has the financing, the lender's more dictating on when that closing is taking place, and that they're just asking. I mean, the agents really are not super involved.
Yeah.
After the PSA has been signed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that really realistically.
But it also depending on that buyer, because the buyer could be savvy or not savvy.
Yeah.
If they're not savvy, they're going to rely on you for everything, and then, yeah. So you got different investor, knowledge, I guess, from them.
So Tom, was the question related to being a broker or being an investor? When you talk about the differences between residential and commercial.
Either or.
So Danny knew I was in a commercial brokerage firm. I was with Max first, then I switched to fully commercial. Then I kind of decided that didn't work out, so I came back to do residential, right? So I do residential and commercial. Differences are, Daniel hit on it, less emotion on the commercial side.
Yep.
But don't forget there's something called ego.
Yes.
So we're still dealing with people feelings, right?
Yes.
But the math to me is, I'm in a market that housing prices are very high, right? So I can do a $1 million, $1.5 million residential contract. I could go and do a $3 million commercial contract, but my residential contract comes every month.
Yes.
Commercial comes every 3 months.
Yeah.
So the math worked out that way. That's why I come back to do commercial. And why I do want to do commercial is, if you ever call the commercial listing, most of the time you don't get a call back. It takes that skill, and then I believe in some of us don't have that accessibility to that asset class.
Yeah. You told me if you call a commercial broker, they don't call you back?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's typical. That's already.
Use the hour, but sometimes I feel like, okay, because I'm not you, so I don't get a call back.
Yeah.
And I hate my community to face with that, so I'm being fisky now. Call for them.
Yep.
Most of my customer on the commercial side is I don't do the cold calling. So if you want to be a listing agent, be on your phone, because you need to know the owner, who is the owner, and help them sell. I help my customer to buy, or tenant represent buy lease a place, right? So both are helping people on either residential or commercial, but you're helping them to achieve their dream in that area. Right? So hope that answers your question. But it's different, and it's tough to do both well.
Correct. You got to choose. So when we talk about resi commercial, it is hard to do both, but doesn't mean that you can't do one or two commercial deals working with a commercial practitioner together, right? So that's why I want to really try to teach you guys is actually there is an opportunity. Find that commercial guy here, make them part of AREAA, right? Have them be a resource teaching more, right? Because a lot of them don't want to teach; they don't have the time, right? But hopefully you can find someone in this market, and you guys can get a panel of different commercial practitioners, maybe one in industrial, one in office, one in multifamily, one in land, and maybe a special, so maybe 5, right? So next commercial panel, you guys can build that up. And then later on, you guys can do an investment class where people are investing in different products as well, what they're doing. I know that I met a couple of people that are doing construction, and they're also doing investments as well. I know, and the thing is, you guys have so much resources now, YouTube, right? Bigger Pockets, all these. My mom was watching Bigger Pockets the other day, and she's been investing for many years, and she was like, "Oh, we should do this." Like, I've been trying to tell you for the past 20 years. It takes someone from YouTube to kind of, things like that. So you guys have so much resources plus technology, AI, ChatGPT. I mean, you can ask ChatGPT and it'll pull up a lot of good information, but you got to use it, right? Especially in real estate, leverage the technology that we have to service your clients better, because they also have the same tools now. Your clients have these same tools, so you make sure you have to get on top of your game. But yeah, yes.
Can you elaborate more on the CCIM?
Okay. So CCIM is the Certified Commercial Investment Member. They're part of NAR as well. Their headquarters in Chicago. So this is a designation where it's like, Laura mentioned it was like a PhD. I think more of an MBA, right? Some people, some people in CCIM think it's the PhD. It is just more education and it's a real estate club as well. But it's all people who have done, $30 million in production. They have a certain amount of time, and then they go through the classes, and it's really on focusing on the investments, sharing the, calculating the rate of return and the cap rate and internal rate of return for your clients. So it's a heavy and also analyzing a property if it's leased for this rate, and just kind of go through the performance, things like that. So it's a good education program. I highly at least get your 101, go through the 101, because then you can join. I don't know if there's a chapter in Milwaukee. I know Chicago, there's a chapter. And there's probably other CCIMs in this market. You can see if they meet up and just kind of pick their brain. Because you can always join a chapter, be part of. You don't have to be CCIM to join a local chapter. You can be just a chapter member. So it's also another great way to connect with more people. Our Dallas chapter is pretty big, where a lot of the CCIMs, they do deals within each other. So it's like, hey, I'll call this guy because we're all members of it. So it's just like, hey, do you have any off-market deals? Or maybe like, hey, do you have a hard money lender? It's a bigger resource because people have gone through it. Every year, our annual dues just as a member is almost $1,000 a year. So since 2008, I've been paying $1,000. so things like that. So they have a lot of pride. But then again, CCI for me, and I know I'm live stream. CCI is not everything. Meaning, but when you see somebody who has it, you know that they went through the courses, they have the production. So yes, you are elevated. And when you are talking to a client, and the client knows what CCIM is, you might get the deal. So that's another thing why we have this designation, why we pay for it. I have a CPM, which is a certified property manager, that's on the commercial side as well. So because we manage our own properties. So the reason why I went to get that, I just wanted more education, because I never had a formal education being part of the big commercial firms. So everything was kind of self-taught, learning, but then you have to push yourself to get this education as well. Calvin, my business partner, different story. He, his MBA, went to Goldman Sachs, worked for Marcus Millichap, worked for other commercial firms. And when he called me, telling me that his team was going to moving him to Utah, and I said, I don't know what's there besides, mountains, Mormons, and stuff. Sorry, but that's the true story, right? So I'm not hiding it. And then I said, I can't afford you, but I have a desk next to my desk, and the sky's the limit. And then if we want to start something, we can, and it's up to us how we want to run it. So, I'm going to close out with making sure, and I always stress is building up your network of people, right? Have a good lender, have your title, your insurance, other commercial or residential industry specialists in your group, so you may not necessarily be in your company, right? We're all in the industry trying to grow. Just make sure that whoever you find are willing to share, because not everyone's collaborative. So that's why your network is your net worth. And I always stress that for all my team members, that they need to continue to build up their network. That's why we're here in Milwaukee, because, Laura, Andy, we all flew here to support you guys. We care about AREAA. We care about the grassroots, because you guys, without the members, there's no AREAA National. Without agents, there are no brokers. There's no brokerage. There's no franchises. There's no whatever, right? So it's the agents' hard work that make it happen, right? It's almost like, I'm not trying to do a political campaign, but that's what it sounds like. Without the people, there's no country. But it's kind of true, right? For me, my background, I'm a Christian, so it's like the church is not a building; it's actually the people. So kind of that same thing is like it's the people, right? So hopefully your membership here in AREAA continues to go strong. In any organization, there's a lot of politics. Try to put that aside. Focus on the mission of AREAA, because our founders set it up to really grow. And hopefully when you guys continue with that. There's always going to be different. There's going to be disagreements, but stay focused on the mission. Is serving other members, bringing on people in. Yes, we're all in business. We all want to, make money, right? But let's make money together. Let's grow together. So hopefully, all your members have that same mindset of collaboration. Then your chapter will not be strong just this year, the years to come, because we've seen other chapters have hard time, and then sometimes the other chapters have to go help. And I've done that. I've gone to help Houston before, Austin before, and I say the same thing. Like, hey, I know that these two leaders don't agree, but that's not the mission. You're the current president. You have your own leadership skill, and everyone's learning, right? Laura was never a president for something, and now he's in it, right? But so hopefully you guys support Laura this year. He's going to have certain things that he wants to do. Let him try it out. Let him fail too. It's okay, right? I was a president for 2016. I failed too. I had other people complain, but you know what? I got stuff done, right? But I didn't train my other people to take over. So make sure you guys train the next generation, so they can take over and make sure this chapter continues to flourish. So, yes.
Outside of networking, and outside of the CCIM, this seems like that's kind of like a 3.0 version.
Yeah.
First, someone who's trying to get into just being at the table of discussion.
Yes.
What are some steps that you believe that we can do to get positioned? Because we have goals to want to get into that, but it, based on this meeting, looks like we need to save a little more money. But I feel like we're just not getting into the right circles to have true conversation versus mindset.
Okay. So if you want to get, like, the easiest way, and it's not hard. I mean, it's not the easiest, but tenant rep, representing tenants looking for space like a restaurant or a store, and you represent the tenants. And that's how you get your foot in real estate, commercial real estate, for retail, right, or even industrial. But the easiest is going to be the smaller shops, right? Tattoo shop, nail salon, hair salon, bubble shops, things like that. Those are the ways you can get your foot in, right? Where you can close a deal, because hopefully they'll look at it. If it's an empty restaurant that's existing, what we call second gen, these are hot commodities, because it's hard to find an existing restaurant space, because all the plumbing. I mean, you just imagine the bar here, all the plumbing and the kitchen and things like that, the vent hood, fire sprinklers, things like that. So you can start that way to get your foot wet. And a lot of people do that. That's where that resi-commercial comes in. You might not do that $10 million sale day one, right? I don't expect you to, because the thing is, if your investor is using you and you have no knowledge, you're not doing justice to your client. That's why I always bring a good commercial partner to come in. So, but the thing is, if you have the resource, it's your client, find that right partner to come in. So that's where you're going to learn. But don't ask for 50-50. A lot of agents, because they're a top producing residential agent, right? So they just feel like, hey, I should deserve 50-50. Don't do that. Just say, hey, 10-15%, I'll refer it, but can I shadow? Can I be on those emails so I can learn? I won't bother you too much, but if there's a showing, can I go to it? If they're willing to let you kind of shadow, that is the best way. That's how you're going to get your foot in the door. But if you ask for 50-50, then you got to do 50. You got to do your 50%.
I think I messed up on that.
Yeah, you did.
I asked for 0.
You asked for 0? You just referred it out and you didn't get anything?
Yeah, I gave a commercial client $1.8 million.
Okay.
To our commercial agent.
In your company at that time?
Yeah, in my company, because I knew that I didn't have the knowledge.
Yes.
I felt like I was going to be servicing them.
Yeah.
Or representing them.
Yeah.
I had no idea how to read those commercials.
No, I understand.
Even when he sends me a copy in the email, he sees me, I'm like, I don't know what the hell this is.
Yeah.
Like, the square footage, people, what they were renting, the profit, or all that
stuff. Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
But I referred them, and I said, I don't want anything.
Yeah.
I just want
to learn.
But I should have asked for 10.
So.
But he is very good, because he tells me when he's meeting them.
Yeah.
And he walks the property with them, and he tells me, and
he brings me out like apartment. He's like, like obviously, is there your guys'?
Well, I mean, that's another way. That's like an intern, right? Like you're coming in. Hey, you can say, I just want an intern. I don't want anything, but I do. Hey, then that broker or that commercial broker better teach you. If they're not giving you anything, you're that intern.
Well, the thing is, like, he did tell me, like, if you want to go get your, additional license for it.
So in Wisconsin, you have to have another license for commercial.
Yeah, well, you have to pay that due for it to operate it to get the MLS access.
Oh, CoStar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like that. But it's expensive.
It's expensive. Yep.
So he's like, if you're gonna do one sale a year, you should refer it out.
Yeah.
But if you want to get into it and then you want to learn, I'll teach you, but you have to, obviously learn how to read this and apply for that.
Yeah.
But the reason how I got to know him was because I did my first real estate deal, but it was a lease.
Okay.
So I brought the tenant in to lease from the building because they weren't selling it.
Yep.
But I got paid for it, and it was because it was a 5-year contract.
Yep.
I got paid a lot higher because they did it off the estimate of how much the rent would be in 5 years.
Correct, because you so the 5-year term is usually set.
Yeah.
So if it's $15 a square foot, or say $2,000 a month, or $20,000 a year, and then it'll be $25,000 a year. You add all that up, not including the triple net. So typically the calculation is just the base rent, and not including the triple net rent, and that divided by or multiplied by your percentage. So typically in Texas, if you represent a tenant, it's a 6%, not split half and half. The tenant rep gets 4%, so a little higher than the listing agent on the on the commercial. Okay.
And so she wanted to do that. So then I told her that because I was representing my rate was 5%.
Okay.
And then she said can they pay for the other? So they ended up paying 2%. She paid 3%.
Okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
I got my money.
Yeah.
But it was a ton of freaking work.
It is.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Commercial is not easy.
It was a ton of work. It was not easy.
Yeah, it's not clean cut.
For 5 months. Because you don't get paid until all the contingencies are met.
Yep. So it's all negotiable. If the landlord doesn't want to pay until everything's done, they got the city approval. Sometimes, so in our market, it's half upon signing a lease, and then half upon when the tenant starts paying rent or they get their CO, their certificate of occupancy. I don't know what it's called here, but that's what we call it. So you got to wait. So if a space was doing construction for a whole year or whatever it is, you got to wait a whole year. I had some really stingy landlords, like, I'll pay you monthly for 5 years. You can imagine your broker doing the accounting, because they has to go to the broker first, and they got to cut you a small check every month. I've had that happen, and I was just like, oh. So, yeah. But typically, half upon signing, half upon when they start paying rent. Yes?
So just to piggyback off her question was, how do you get experience exposure in the commercial world? How do you get experience and exposure if you're not an agent? I'm not an agent. I'm just like a small nobody in the community, and I want experience.
So you can still get your CCIM, or at least take those courses. So when I was in class, I've met other investors, because they want to know how to calculate the things correctly. They wanted the tools that CCIM has, because as a CCIM, we have different tools for calculating internal rate of return. What else was there? Yeah, so that's one way. There are a lot of investors in our organization that I've built. They do get their real estate license. One is data, right? If you're doing residential real estate, yes, you have your agent, but if you want the data right away, and instead of waiting for the agent, it's an investment, right? You're investing in yourself. It's knowledge. And if you have the data, you can start doing your own research. You may not want to do that. You're not selling houses and things like that, but you want the data. So I encourage investors to get their license as well. So I have a lot of investors in our group, and that's why we created a real estate club within our platform for that. Yeah, Andy?
You Cindy is pushing out the real estate, commercial real estate classes.
Yes. Yeah. So we're doing. So I have one of my partners. She's teaching commercial. We start. I think we're doing our intro February 8th, and then we do one every month. We are live streaming that as well. So if you want to hear that, I'll send it to Laura and he can push it out. But there's a lot of people that are teaching different things. But ours is a little bit different because I actually go to properties. So we'll do like 1 hour workshop and we'll actually go to a project and look and meet the developer or meet the listing agent and go over that project because I like to be more interactive. And I think that's something that's unique to our group that we're doing because most commercial brokers not going to spend time with residential agents to teach them. But that's where I feel like I can give back to that because we've closed a lot of good commercial deals through residential agents. I know it exists. I mean, we closed, I don't know, I think 2 years ago there was like 3 deals over totaling around $25 million because a residential agent just made a connection and they got a good, we gave them a 50-50 on those because it was a solid client, and it's a partnership in that sense. But if you're just starting out, either intern or 10-15% is kind of that, because even with that 10-15%, not just like I'm just waiting for my referral check, actually kind of learn, right? Like you were learning, trying to understand this, but don't bug the broker too much unless they're willing to kind of share more. Let them get to the closing table. Don't slow them down. Because a lot of things like residential agents, they slow us down. Like there's certain things that we just need to get through. I know you want to learn, but our focus is getting to the closing table because time is money, right? So, all right. Yes, David.
If I can share a resource, so I recently became interested in commercial real estate questions. I don't know where do I begin? I was doing this, it's my first commercial loan. I realized how to do the transaction, I had no idea what I was doing. And I was like, you fake it till you make it, right? But then afterwards, like, I don't want to go through this again. What can I do to improve my skills? So I spoke with the commercial broker who was working with me. He recommended that I check out this website. It's called Udemy, UDEMY, and they have various college level courses on there that are very accessible.
Yes.
I paid $30 for an introduction to commercial real estate.
Yep.
And commercial financial modeling course. And it's been a very good just foundation of
Yes.
what is commercial real estate, what are the terms and
Don't fake it till you make it.
Yeah, but
It'll cost you, and you'll get in trouble.
right. But that was a good, I found that to be a good place to at least start so that I can understand what people are talking about and the language and such. So it's like $30 for the course.
Yeah, and I do have a lender that does commercial. If you guys are interested in that,
Yeah.
His name is Mike, and he's with Watertown, and all he does is Mike, and all he does is just commercial loans.
I mean, you guys have a lot of resource here. Bring them together, right? Have them share, and that's the value prop of joining AREAA, right? So you guys have to. There's a lot of organizations, real estate organizations, right? What makes you guys unique? You got to bring the people on, not just sponsor, but actually give back and share and knowledge. And like these, you can live stream it, you can Zoom call in or whatever. Just have to provide value. But for the investors, you don't have to get your license, but that's just another value prop if you wanted to, because you got data right away and you get to connect with more people. For me, is because as we're creating our because you're an AREAA, make sure you connect with other AREAA people around the country and go to national conference because that's where you're going to really meet all the top producers. They're spending time and money away from their city to come together, not just to party and drink and all that. That happens after hours, right? But during the focus, you'll get to see the top producers, why they're making it. And then at the same time, it's like, if you want to raise capital, your network's bigger, right? If you're just standing around the 10 people around, that's your sphere. Your sphere needs to get bigger, right? Yeah, so.
Daniel, put in a plug for Josie.
Yeah, so one of my partners developed a shopping center. I don't know if you guys know what H Mart is. That's a Korean grocery store. So it's the center next to it, or it's just adjacent to it. So she has a couple buildings. So she's also she developed that. She leased it out. There's 2 pad sites. Now their investors are willing to sell that property. They're going to sell it, but they're allowing other investors to come in to basically purchase it, and you can start at like $50,000 a pop to be part of this investment opportunity. So we're not it's not a syndication because you got to go through the it's just really within our group, you know. So if you do want to connect, you know, I can connect you down there. It's in Katy, Texas. It's in, just northwest of Houston. Tim Ho One is there, which is I think the only Chinese Michelin star restaurant in the U.S. There's Haidilao. There's a lot of chains in that area. So it's a good opportunity because it's a new construction. It's already leased out. They're going to develop the 2 pads as well. So that's including. It's about a $35 million project to get in. So if you want a piece of it, there's an opportunity where she's kind of crowdfunding together the piece of it with friends and people we know in our network. So, but yeah, if you want interest, let Laura know, and then you know we can. I mean, you guys can fly down there, do a tour, or she can do a Zoom call and just kind of share what she's doing.
Yeah, it's
So
Katy, Asian Town, right?
Yep, you've been there. You go to the eat all the time.
And yeah, it's an absolutely beautiful, crazy retail, like Daniel mentioned. Like
Yeah.
They have high-end chain Asian restaurants all over. I think they have a couple of fancy local places there.
Yeah. A lot of the franchise companies are there. Daiso's there. The Japanese bookstore. I'm trying to think of the name, but yeah, I mean it's there. I think Chicago. So Chicago. There's a new developer from Texas, from New Quest, that is doing a similar concept in Chicago. So it's the same company that developed that area with Josie. Different developers were there, but that's where they're bringing the big franchises from West Coast or overseas.
Do we know what the return on investment is for that 50,000?
So I don't have it on top of my head, but she's trying to double your money. I think 5 to 7 years. She says 5, and I try to be more conservative. But the thing is, it's a concentrated area, and you can't go across the street to do it. And it's just so it's a unique situation where you can be part of it. So because what her goal is to have her agents all be part of it, so they own a piece of the pie. Because as agents, we're always selling. We don't own anything. And the day you stop selling, you have no more passive residual income. So that's why you have to learn to start investing. You got to learn how to put your money aside to let it work for yourself, right? Because our hard work is just sell. As a broker, I wanted my agents to sell. Why? Because I make money off my agents back then, right? Now it's a different because I'm in a different platform. I want them to sell, but I also want them to also invest to create a passive income for their families, right? Because if they're just selling and you see agents that are in their 70s still working. Why? Because they have no passive income. If they stop, they have no more income. So it's kind of sad to see that. So hopefully you guys are slowly getting to more investment for yourself because you can depreciate, right? We have a lot of good tax codes that we can write off things, right? Especially as a realtor, if you become your license, you can write a lot of stuff off. So, all right, and that's maybe another tax class that you guys will do. But yeah, what time is it?
12:40.
Yeah, so
yeah, thank you, Daniel, for coming and
No problem.
presenting for us. We got to fly out a little bit here, but I think you're gonna stick around for a couple.
yeah, I can. I'll stop the stream. Bye, everyone.